article. Actually, it is. Yeah, there was a link in this article as well. But it just they don't have the numbers, so I don't see how they can really.
Like
say
literally,
this.
the only thing they're going off of is a
you're
third-party
using
site.
Screen Rant. You're using Screen Rant.
Okay. It was sent to me. Yeah.
Never mind.
Like, why would they even run with that? Well,
I don't think you would run with Screen Rant at this point.
No. I'm just saying this is what was sent to me from Anthony
Go
Schrader.
to it's at the Deadline articles. The Deadline is the main source, and everybody's sourcing that article, and they write think pieces on that. That's just how they do it. I just, go to the source or whatever. I went after THRs yesterday because THR was taking information out of context. And if you go to the Deadline article, I mean, they even tell you there's no numbers. Like the article literally says there's no numbers, but it's a good thing. I'm happy there's no numbers. You know why? Because I mean, how are they going to come to fans and tell fans that, like, Zack Snyder's Justice League is an amazing success. Look at these numbers. They're the best we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. There's no sequel. And then fans will go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The fuck? You made the nevers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be one of those questions, or you did this. They don't do that. They need an answer for something. And a lot of the times they're waiting for, contracts to be signed or deals to be put in place for them to move forward. But this is one of those chances where they probably didn't predict that Zack Snyder's Justice League was going to be this massive of a success. They probably hoped, and Warner Brothers hoped, because this film was never supposed to be made, they hoped that fans would get it and move away. But it wasn't just fans. It was everybody that was watching this movie at home. Yeah. It was people that have never had any interest in the film is now watching it. I mean,
like I've even seen NFL players tweeting about how much they enjoyed it. Like, seriously, it's insane.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. I mean, the way they're handling all this it's so crazy. But I mean, we'll see what happens. God, this fucking website.
I mean, because Matt, you and I were talking earlier about before the show, talking about the switch up at HBO Max and their hierarchy and how who was running the show and everything. And talking about Toby Emmerich coming in there, and so and I know Taylor's mentioned the idea of Zach having to go in and repitch everything basically. Mm-hmm. And so, Matt, in your opinion, what would be the timetable of that? I mean, of course, because we've all heard that like Zach's on vacation right now, but like, what would be the timetable of like that conversation possibly happening in your opinion?
I mean, the conversation's probably already happened. I mean, for a lot of people, a lot of the times these conversations happen and it takes a few weeks or it takes a day or two, or sometimes it happens almost immediately. It depends on what the studio wants. The studio can literally come out and say, we're going to make this film. It's like New Gods. New Gods was never greenlit, but everybody assumed it was greenlit because they announced it. That's not how an announcement for a film works. You don't just, you could put a film out there and say, hey, we're going to make this movie.
Like something in the works. But,
that's good for press. That's good for press. But in the reality, once the physical budget comes in and they look at the shooting requirements for these budgets, they need a round number to say, yes, this is what they're going to do. For Zach's, they're talking about numbers. They're not talking about, can we do this? They're talking about, can we physically, like not physically, but physically do this? Can the monies be there to actually make this project a reality? And if we move forward, what else comes with it? That's where the pitch comes. It's like, hey, you're not just getting this, you're getting all of this. And guess what? They've already done the work. They've already spent their free time. They haven't got paid to do it. And they're already out there, scouting locations, looking at what they want to do, tapping into resources for visual effects to see how much it's going to cost. They're gathering those numbers. Studios don't get those numbers. The production that's doing the production, that's doing the project, is getting those numbers because they're the ones that are being contracted to make these films. And if you look at you have a good point. We talked about Emmerich earlier, and I think I can kind of say this, is that there's a lot at stake here. You have Hamada and Emmerich. So Emmerich is the overall seer at Warner Brothers, and then you have Hamada at DC Films. And if you take Emmerich's position and you look at that and you say, hey, if Emmerich has a lot at stake for what projects are going to move forward, then that's going to jeopardize what they're trying to do over at DC Films, because now Hamada has to change games and course correct with a lot of projects. And then Zach's coming in wanting to do his projects, but they have this idea of a multiverse, right? But they don't really know how they want to work this multiverse.
They don't know how the multiverse works, period. Because again, they said no to Jon Stewart.
No, they do. They fully understand how they want to do it. Now,
how they
throws a monkey wrench into the whole equation. Is how can this work? And we've said it multiple times. Zach said it, like, you can have 2 Green Lanterns. I can have my Jon Stewart. You can have your Jon Stewart.
Right.
Let the fans decide. Like, they don't want to compete with themselves. They want everybody to like flow naturally. But when you throw a monkey wrench in there and everybody starts fighting over it, then it's like Zach they look at it as like Zach came in and ruined everything, when they are the ones that came in and tore it all apart. And all fans want is what pretty much they were promised and what they were clamoring to, and the universe that they were paying a lot of money to go see. Because ultimately it comes down to finances, right? It comes down to budget and money. They're not going to make a project that's not going to make money. And New Gods was already a mess to begin with. It wasn't going to be any more than what it was. And it kind of sucks, because I would have loved to see an Ava New God film.
Yeah.
But the reality of what they're doing, they're not really doing much. They're waiting for something to come, and they're going to capitalize on that individually. That's why when people say individual films, they're waiting for the film to be done so that they can look at what they can do next. They're already moving with Matt Reeves' Batman. Now they're claiming it's Earth 2, which they've been doing. And then Zack Snyder's Justice League is over here. It's like, we can isolate that, but it's like, it's getting too big. You can't isolate something that big. Fans are going to want it. So what do? Okay, let's give them something, and then we see Deathstroke HBO Max, that hashtag pop out of nowhere. And it shows you the interest that's what fans want. They want a monster verse, right? This is the DC monster verse, right? Zack Snyder's Snyderverse is the monster verse of the DC, right? It's like fans want it, but the studio is like, hammering the idea, like, I don't know, it kind of doesn't fit with our plans. And then you look at who's winning here, who's got the investment.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, like, this is really throwing a monkey wrench in my plans. Like, but this is an improvement on what you had planned. Like, roll with the success that you have here instead of just fighting it because it's against your plan. It's like,
well, because there's a lot. I'll answer this question right here. There's a lot at stake. It's not just about its job security. You can look at it, but it's about the people in charge that want to financially win at the end of it. Theater companies. I did a whole thing about this yesterday.
Yeah. So talk to us about how the theater money works.
If you are in the theater, right? Studios make their bonuses or their capital interest back depending on the contracts they sign for a lot of these films that go in the theater. So when you go and buy a ticket, that money comes back to the studio. They get a percentage of the ticket gross that comes back that goes directly to that studio or to that executive or whoever signed that contract. That's the interest they're getting from the ticket sales. Sometimes studios give up their rights for these films so that they can get the ticket costs back or the merchandise costs. Like George Lucas, he gave up a lot of his interests of the IP property to keep it, but he kept a lot of the interest in the IP of the toys, right? So he's profitable just off the making of those toys. And look how big Star Wars toys are, right? He profits a lot off those toys. Same concept works for the theater department. When they send movies out to the theater, they get those ticket prices back. They get interest. They have an investment, right? There's an investable stake there to make sure that film is successful in theaters. And guess what? We'll pay top dollar to get critics or anybody to support this film because I got to get money back. However, you can't do that on a streaming service because how do they get money from a click and a view? It's not it's a new algorithm for them to kind of figure out how can they make money off of these investments on a streaming service. Even actors are now trying to figure out how they're going to be able to do that. They can't be able to do that at all either. You can't make money, right? Unless you now make new contracts to say, hey, if I get so many views off this film, then I have to get a reimbursement back or some type of capital back to show my, it's a new concept. And I think that's something that they're trying to work out. It's something new that they're trying to all work. And Netflix has theirs that fit for them. But for these studios that have these new streaming services, it's gonna be weird how they move forward with making productions. And you could see J.J. Abrams moving along with his stuff and doing Justice League Dark and Superman and all that. There's something there for a lot of these new films that they're working out. Ben Affleck said it years ago. There's a video floating around which I thought was brilliant. But yeah, there has to be a new way to do it, right? There has to be a new way to write these contracts that can benefit both sides.
Right. That's a good point. Good point. Have to figure out how because it is a switch of epic proportions because Hollywood's been working a certain way for years. And when you have a new way of doing things, you're like, well, crap, like we can't just follow the same formula of how we've been doing things anymore. Like we have to switch things up.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, you do.
And that's the problem that we're having now, is that they don't want to let go of that old way of doing things because they want to make their money.
Yes, it all comes down to money. It has nothing to do with like, oh, this film's going to be successful, this film's not going to be successful. The film's successful, but they can't go to audiences and say, hey, here's the numbers for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to do it. It just doesn't work. They're going to be, the fans are going to go against them. I mean, look, Deathstroke's, I think one of you mentioned, I think it was Dawson, that they've been stringing people along for years about the Deathstroke film, and then finally said, oh, we can't make it happen. Creative differences. There's always an excuse, right? So those excuses are now being outplayed by fans. Fans are catching up to these excuses. And now they're like, hey, hold on. What, 2017 is your canon? And that's the shit we didn't want, but you're going to tell us Zack Snyder's Justice League is not canon? But now look at all the fans that want it. Look at my grandmother who watched it, loved it, and now you're telling her that's not where we're going? Like
literally, Zack Snyder's Justice League did something that no other superhero movie has ever done, which is draw my dad's interest. My dad is not a huge superhero guy at all. Like, he knows some characters in the comics and stuff, but like he doesn't really care for superhero movies. Zack Snyder's Justice League is now by far his favorite superhero film of all time. And that's saying something.
Well, it's really good storytelling as well. I mean, you had brought up a scene a while back, Dawson, saying how in the beginning when he was talking to Aquaman and the people there in Iceland, that you were like, yeah, you're talking about Bruce Wayne, who spoke Russian in BVS, but yet he goes there and he can't even speak the language.
Yeah, that bugged me so much in Justice League. Like, all of a sudden he's confused that they made some off remark. He's like, well, what'd they say?
Yeah,
like, no. He's a master linguist.
He's like, I'm pretty sure he'll give it to me anyway. You know,
Bruce Wayne.
I was like,
exactly.
What? No. And what's funny is that when I watched it with my wife, when that scene was kind of occurring, she was like, see, that doesn't make any sense. It feels like Bruce Wayne should know how to speak that language. And then right then he spoke the language and he was like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? Or whatever he told him.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. And she was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, yes, perfect.
But that changes the character dynamics as well. If you think about the character arcs and its overall archetypal structure of how Batman is being created in Justice version, is that they wanted to kind of explore that in a different element. They didn't want this version to be so educatedly well known, right? They were kind of in a way trying to rebalance the character and try to move forward, but it backlashed, right? You know, you go backwards and you look at it and you're like, well, this Batman is older. He's wiser. He should know a lot of different languages. I mean, we saw it in BVS. He fucking did it. So you're going to tell me he can't speak the language like, you know, you're saying, Dawson, is because he could speak multiple languages, actually. He has 6 satellites, right? I'm pretty sure he has 6 different ways of speaking.
He mastered over 100 forms of martial arts, and that goes same way for languages. Like, he masters tons of languages for this detective work because he does things all over the globe. Like,
yeah, right. Like, for a superhero where his superhero power is he's rich, he can't afford Babel.
Yeah, he can't afford Babel. Rosetta Stone was too much for him. Well, Matt, let me ask you real quick. I know you have to go real soon, but you know, there's been some stuff put out there about DC wanting to do this multiverse, or like a Justice League, a multiverse Justice League. And to me, it sounds kind of wacky. I don't think it makes much sense.
I mean, it makes sense if you're a comic lover and you understand like the multiversal Justice League. Like they do have them. You know, you can team up. You can do that. It is possible. I'm not saying that it's not.
It was
possible.
done on the CW.
Yeah, we saw how that went. But I don't know. I don't watch CW show. I just watched the what is it? The trailer, and I saw the cheap ad, and it just looked really corny to me, and I tuned off. But I mean, it's possible, but it's not going. Okay, one of the funniest rumors I heard was Robert Pattinson will team up with Henry Cavill, and then they'll both start World's Finest and make this multiverse world together. It won't work because, one, how does Henry Cavill going to merge with that Batman? Like, that would never happen because, one, we just saw Ben Affleck beat the shit out of that Superman, and then we're going to see Robert Pattinson, who's taking on the Riddler.
Yeah.
Take on this super it just logically as a fan, you're just gonna be like, that sounds cool in reality. If I'm like a like an avid, just one of these out there type of people that I want to be like, I want Sylvester Stallone to be Bane and I want him to fight fucking Henry Cavill, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger comes in and he becomes like, he's fucking Mr. Freeze again. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that does sound kind of cool.
Plus, like,
can you write the universe, Matt?
Plus, Matt Reeves even said his universe is its own thing. Like, it's his movies are going to be their own thing and just self-contained Batman stories.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he wants to do. And so him combining with like Henry Cavill goes completely against what the director wants, which isn't a unknown thing with Warner Brothers, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, the Batman movie is going to have what? The Bat family. So, I mean, you're going to see more Bat people in the Bat family appearing in his movie. That
Arkham Gaming will be excited about that one.
Yeah, definitely. And then, you have this concept art that was released just the other day. And when you look at, I mean, like, you get a full shot of Granny Goodness. And he's talking about basically a new god. And then there was this image here of a concept art for the Green Lantern. I mean, Matt, do we know anything about who this actor was supposed to be in this?
Not going to answer the question, man. I knew you were going to ask me. I'm not going to answer it.
Well, because I mean, look, you guys had brought up a while back on Livecast when you had Taylor Murphy on the show.
Yeah,
you guys had brought up the fact that there was a costume in the background that was a practical costume that was used that could have been Green Lantern's costume, and that is, do I still have it?
Nice,
it's right there. And when you compare the two, it looks extremely similar to each other. How, right here, you see where it comes down on his pec. And then if you go back to the image, it comes down almost in the same spot.
Yeah, the pec. I mean, it's all concept, right? A lot of those are concept suits, concept arts. A lot of those are just mold suits that get molded again and used for something else. We could see the Aquaman suit back there, I think, behind it. Atlantean suit, probably, not just Aquaman's. There's so many suits, right? So that one was always one that was always questionable because there was a Green Lantern. Like, the storyboards came out, which is kind of nice because it showed that Hal Jordan was the original Green Lantern that he was going to do, and then it changed over time and molded. And I love now that he picked Jon Stewart because of what I was told. It makes more sense for Jon Stewart, which I think is awesome, because we get to see Hal Jordan in the Honor Corps, right? We get to see him a wiser, older Hal Jordan, right? And we see Kilowog. What I love about that scene when we see Kilowog, you know what's great about it? If anybody looks at it like critically, it's kind of like Zach telling the studio, like, this, you killed my Green Lantern, so I killed yours, basically, and laid him flat in front of the Justice League mantle, and he just opens up that shot with a dead Green Lantern, and we never see the payoff. We never see the payoff because we see Jon Stewart set up in Justice League. So when the newspaper gets thrown, there's an architect missing. And if you're familiar with this character, he's an architect and he's gone. So it's like,
makes
I don't know, man. I want people to see, we all want to see, right, this Green Lantern come down, and it's Jon Stewart.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Damn, man. I mean, it's just, it just sucks to know that we didn't get a chance, that we didn't get to see that scene. As much as I love this movie, and I was even watching this morning before I went to work, I just, in the back of my mind, I know that scene exists somewhere. I mean, and I don't know if we're ever going to see it. Maybe. I mean, I think eventually we probably will.
Maybe.
Zach could just be like, F it, and put it out there. Like, I don't even care. Like, screw you guys. You tried to ruin my
Ryan
film.
had a good point. Or Ryan from Zegerfed, that is. Sorry, Ryan. he had a good point the other day when he said he was saying, if Zach would have put that out, he thinks it'd be more of like, okay, look, it's over. They're not going to move forward with my universe. Boom. Here's my scene with Green Lantern. Or this is the guy who it was. And that's kind of like, that's him saying, fuck you, WB. Here's all my shit. This is what I had for you guys. And they took it away. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Basically, Ryan said that'd be a sign of him accepting defeat.
Yes. And Ryan's out here to defend himself, so I don't know what he's doing. I know he has sore.
All right, so let's attack him.
Ryan sucks!
I mean, he's not, I'm not, it's like, think of it this way, right? Speculative thinking. If he puts out the scene the payoff is gone, right? That's the payoff. The big payoff was the introduction to Green Lantern. And a lot of people now see where Green Lantern could have fit in the movie, because I think it was funny because Taylor said it on one of the shows that when I was the host of the show, he said, it's crazy how they change things. They changed Green Lantern is now being molded into Martian Manhunter. He goes, they're swapping the lines. So there's a lot that wasn't shown. There's a lot, especially in that nightmare sequence. There's a lot more dialogue that wasn't even revealed. You know what I mean? Because they do so many takes. It's all about what they put together. I mean, for fans now, seeing all this behind the scenes stuff and how these films actually work, I mean, fans are going to want to be like, show me more behind the scenes. What's another take? Give me all that. Like, if studios were smart and they put all these takes together and just put it on a separate DVD set and sold it to fans, you know how much money they would make? How much footage they have on a timeline, like on multiple timelines. It's insane.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely insane.
The last thing that I want to share with you guys, since Matt is still here and he doesn't have to leave yet, is the scene that we didn't get to see in the Justice is Gray, but he finally released that scene, which is We Live in a Society scene. So let's pull that up real quick and take a look at that scene. I thought the scene was so good. Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
It's funny. You would talk about people who died in my arms. Because when I held Harley Quinn and she was bleeding and dying, she begged me with her last breath that when I killed you, and make no mistake, I will fucking kill you.
Yeah.
That I do it still.
That's my Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Maybe this will come in handy. Honor. Really, Bruce? Honor.
The halogen light just behind it.
In a society where honor is a distant memory. By the way, who do you think screamed the loudest?
Jeez.
The girl? Or the boy?
Throat punch him.
I know.
Rock bottom.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that laugh.
So
It's
creepy.
Very careful.
What's
Yeah.
great is that people can actually see that. If you go back to the shot of Joker when he's laughing, I like to show this to people when they go back a little bit farther back. Go back probably about 3 seconds. That's 1 second. That's 2 seconds. There's 3 seconds. And right there, you see how you have the background is completely opaque back. So that's like a green drop. That's chroma. So it shows you how much the visual effects, they have to pay just to do that shot. So they have to select what shot they're actually going to do. So they know because they're going to pay for the visual effects to fill that shot, and it shows you how much gets like put in and what gets put out. And, there's probably a hard decision to make, to be like, damn, we would have really loved to put this line in. But if he did, then we're talking about, we're talking more about what's he really talking about? You know what I mean? What's he really, if that got into a movie, fans are going to be, was it Harley? Was it Batgirl? Was it somebody else? Was it Robin, the female Robin? You know what I mean? It's already speculative and, they look at everything, man.
But I mean, between this two, between this one and the one we got in Zack Snyder Justice League, which one do you like the best? Since you're on limited time, Matt, let's start with you. Which one did you like better? This one here, or the one we got in the Snyder Cut?
This one.
Dawson, what about you?
I kind of like both equally. I think they both do the job they're intending to do.
Definitely.
I don't know. I like the fact that it includes we live in a society. But I do kind of like the idea in the movie, the one that actually made it in, where Joker's kind of like terrified, like, "Oh, you're good. You almost had me."
Yeah.
They both suit a different purpose. So to me, they're both kind of on equal ground.
Well, I like how they both show vulnerability. They both got to each other. Anthony, what about you?
Just slightly the original from the cut. I do love We Live in a Society That's Fire. Like that is fucking. It gives you chills. The first time I saw, I was like, "Oh shit, Zach just dropped this," and then I listened to it. I was like, "Yo, fire!" But I do like the original just a little bit better. The Harley Quinn line is always going to be fire. I think this scene is a mixture of like perfect, like shit. What do they call it?
Banter.
That no, like the writing, and then some of it's just not. It's I'm missing the word here.
Ad-libbed.
Yes.
Ad-libbed.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a mixture of both. I think we live in a society where you said, okay, yeah, dude. Yeah, he could have mixed them up. Ryan, that was a good one. I'll give you that.
We live in a society where you send a boy.
That line from the original is, I think, what gets it for me as far as when you try to compare these two is when he says, you said a boy wanted to do dude, it's so fire, and you're just like,
and the way it's filmed too, he goes to do a man's job, and his face, comes into focus.
Rack focuses once
like,
he says the line.
Yeah, because it draws you in, and it's just like, oh man.
But both of them still have that shot at the end where he's just like, and he has that weird smirk where he's just like, right? I was like, dude, creepy as fuck and fire. So like, both of them are tight, but the original, I think the boy wanted to do a man's job is the
right there it is.
Dude, look at
oh my gosh.
Ryan, what about you?
I kind of prefer the film version more. I really like seeing Joker vulnerable. Like, seems like this is the first time that Batman has finally got to him. Like, he shows a little bit of fear before he's like, "You're good. You almost had me."
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, the alternate scene is cool too. The "We Live in a Society" line is fire as well, like how Anthony says. But I like the film, like the final film version. I think it kind of adds a little more tension.
Yeah, I can agree.
Brian, what do you think, Brian?
No, I agree. I think he kind of went the right way with how it was put out in the cut originally. I like the whole sent a boy wanted to do a man's job bit.
Dude, that's so cool. That's so great.
But all in all, I'm glad we got a little bit of interaction between the two.
Yeah.
That way, if for some reason we don't ever again, at least we can say, hey, they look good together on screen.
Great.
Yeah.
We did it, yeah.
Yeah, it's fire. And the way he cracks up when Soups lands, Superman lands, he's like, he's still laughing at them. Okay, like, almost like, you're so fucked now,
He's also laughing because he's like, you don't get to kill me now. So that's like one thing he gets to win before Batman and him die.